Dick. I don't know where, they got the seats mixed up a little bit. Okay. Let's see, Craig is going to call the roll, if he would, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Member Batchelor? Here. Member Jackson?
Here.
Member De La Portilla? Here. Member Weinsberg?
Here.
Member Callan? Member Arias?
Present.
Vice Chair Shira?
Here.
Member Wynn?
Here.
Member Grimer?
Here.
Member Baga?
Here.
Member O'Neill? Here. Member Staccardo? Here. Member Adamson Prophet? Here. Member Riley is absent, as well as Chair Homer Hardage. You have a quorum. Roll call.
Yeah, the majority meeting of the members here to open the session. Let's see. With us at this time, the comments that I would have as Vice Chairman is first one, Emily Bonita is sick or absent, and sends her aide to speak to us. Is the aide here yet, Alexis? Okay. Alexis, would you like to make the excuse for the chair, for the county commissioner?
Yeah, unfortunately, she's not feeling well, but on behalf of Commissioner Emily Bonilla, I extend a warm welcome to you all for being here today. We are honored to have you guys here in District 5. So she is feeling under the weather.
You want to push the mic? Yeah.
This one? Okay.
There you go.
She deeply regrets not being able to make it here today. She was very much looking forward to having you all here, and you know, she's been very active in these Charter Review Commission meetings. I'm sure you all have seen her there numerous times, and she will see you at the next one. To the members of the audience here, thank you all for coming out and participating in this. The panelists here, they've been very great at listening to and considering your ideas and concerns. So thank you all for coming out. I look forward to hearing from you all, and I look forward to reporting back to Commissioner what happens here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Alexis. Okay. At this time, we'll consider second.
Public comment.
Yeah, well, not yet. We would with the meetings at the end, I guess. No, I thought it was at the beginning. Got the who done?
Vice Chair. Sorry, Vice Chair. This is Jennifer. We will now move into public comment. If that
Oh, you
is
want to
your
go into that?
yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, the first one we have is Trinity Quasar. Would you like to step forward and give us comments?
Good evening. How much time? You said it's my first time. It's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, how many? 3 minutes. A veteran of several charter review committees, always advocating for the people who no one seems to really think about, even though they are appointed by people that get elected to do the people's business, it is always the same thing. It's like a deja vu. Now, I don't see in this agenda items that I really care, but I want to talk in 2 items. I heard a rumor through the mill that there's plan to elongate, to make no terms for the commissioners at Orange County. Is that truth?
Not that I know. I
Is
haven't
this
heard
board
anything.
considering to do that because the people oppose that? People should have an opportunity to get elected twice, each time for years, and if you don't do your job or you don't know how to do the job, you leave and let somebody else come. For 30 years, I live in this county, and it's so sad to see that the rich gets richer, The developers get all the land, and the real people get either evicted from the high-cost apartments, and no real housing is ever built. Now, there is also another rumor that after fighting for the tax development board, the monies that we'll be getting, it's not going to be for housing, but for venues.
For what?
People don't need venues. People don't need cars. People need food and shelter. And as long as I can be in these meetings, somebody will hear me saying, for the people, by the people. So please, whoever appointed you, you know who your appointee commissioner is, tell the message. We are sick and tired of the same old same. And what do they say? You do the same thing always, you get the same results. Well, it's time to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? I only have one sheet here for comments. Does anybody else like to address the commission? I guess not, so we'll move on. Okay, this time we'll go ahead and open the board commission to comments between the members, if they would like to speak.
Excuse me, Chair Shira, this is Jennifer.
Yeah, that would get to it. I got a different one than you.
Vice Chair Shira, this
Yes.
is Jennifer. If we could move into the consent, and if it would be
Oh, you want to do
okay?
that one first? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
What
I'll
do you-
look for a motion for approving the minutes of July 17th.
I shall move.
Okay,
I can second.
Mark and Dottie is the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes?
Yes, you are. Yeah, there's no problem with voting on minutes you weren't at a meeting for.
We'll record your coming, Dickie. Okay, so we got that done, and we'll go on to the next item, is the committee updates. We got two committees that are going to report tonight on their activities. It's called the Governmental Structure Committee meeting held on July 26th, and Chair Della Porta will give us a synopsis of his meeting in the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. So our committee is now called the Government Structure Committee. We met last on July 26. Our committee is looking at 5 different issues. One of them is expansion of the county commission districts. Another one is we're looking at term limits for county commissioners. We're looking at also the county attorney. We're looking at also a topic called separation of powers, whether the mayor should also serve on both the legislative on the executive side. And then a 5th is on the frequency of charter review committee how often should we meet, every 4 years or longer? So at our July 26th meeting, we had a representative from the supervisor of elections named John Chapman. He works for Supervisor Cowles. He gave us an update on a scenario in the event that should the full CRC recommend that the county commission should be expanded, the scenario that was discussed is there will be an election in November of 2024 where voters will be asked to expand the commission either by 1 seat or by 2. We still are going through the process. And if that, if the voters support that, in 2025, there will be the county commission will have to appoint a committee to redistricting committee, similar to what happened in 2021. So they'll appoint a committee, they'll draw up the districts. We're adding 2 districts, and Attorney Vos also provided us some examples, some other, one scenario, whereas right now we have 6 districts. If you expand to 8, for example, there'll be an election in 2026 for 2 commissioners. Now, one of those commissioners will have a 4-year term, and one of those commissioners will initially have a 2-year term and then have to get reelected again 2 years later. So because right now the elections are staggered, 1, 3, and 5 are held on even number of years, on presidential elections, and then 2, 4, and 6 are held on off-year elections or gubernatorial elections. So we had plenty discussion. We have our next meeting scheduled on August 30th at 11 a.m. At the Comptroller's workshop. We're having a representative from Orange County come in and provide us data on potential costs to expand the commission chambers, and also previous discussions that have taken place about a new county administration building that the former mayor was looking at. So that's on the agenda. The other thing that we discussed was we got a little bit, we started discussing the county attorney that's been added to our scope. I had asked Attorney Vos to research this because the original charter in 1986 had the county attorney that was basically hired by the Board of County Commissioners. So that was part of the original charter. In 1988, there was a new charter commission and an election, subsequent election, and there was a ballot. Proposition 2 was approved by the voters, but did not include any language referring to the county attorney. But somehow the county attorney is simply now hired by the mayor, not by the county, not by the Board of County Commissioners. It's hired by the mayor only, and it's the legal department is a department that is under the full jurisdiction of the mayor. So we're looking at these are the issues that we're looking at. That's my update, Mr. Chairman. I'm available to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've got a couple of questions for Mr. DiPatilio.
Turn on your microphone.
Mic's not on.
All right, it's pretty small here. You can go ahead, Dickie.
Is it on now? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Representative
if-
Bachelor, you got the floor.
It's okay? No?
Yes.
Okay, question. And it's working now. If elected, no, that's a different speech. That's an old speech. Angel, I've got a couple of questions for you. On the, and I think the woman who testified alluded to 2 of the issues. One, wasn't the term limit issue before the voters before? Wasn't it before the voters before?
What issue is that?
Wasn't there a previous charter review commission that advanced the question on term limits before?
Yes,
And it was voted
down.
down again?
I would ask Attorney Vos to help us with that. I think it's been discussed at the committee level. I don't know if we've discussed it at the. I don't know if it's made it to the full to the voters.
No, I think previously, a previous charter review commission had this issue before the voters, I believe, didn't they?
I'm trying to make mine go red. If somebody could. For a second,
Okay.
and now it kicked in. Yeah, we're learning how this works. So to my recollection, as you all know, as of right now, there is a limit of 2 full terms
Right.
for county commissioners in that same office or district seat. It is not my recollection that there has ever been a subsequent proposed charter amendment after that was put in the charter, asking them to change it to something else for county commissioners. It has been on the ballot before to impose, for example, term limits on the constitutional officers, okay?
Okay.
But I don't recall there being any charter amendment proposal that got on a ballot to change that to say 3 consecutive terms or to remove term limits or anything like that. Certainly has happened in other charter counties, but I don't recall it in Orange.
I know it's been a hot issue since Phil Handian passed the term limits for legislators some years ago. So every time it comes up, it seems to be, and we'll find out with the public saying, keep term limits. It seems to be something that's, but we'll see if it makes it to the final draft. My second question, Mr. Chairman, of Angel, I like to call you Angel. It just sounds
It's a lot easier than De La Portilla. I'll tell you that.
I think Angel is just such a nice word. But anyway, even though I know you personally, For the benefit of the people here tonight, and would you talk a little bit about, if I might use the term rationale, for the rationale for at least thinking about expanding the numbers of commissioners, the population growth, those kind of things? Would you mind expounding on that for the benefit of the people who are here tonight who might not have been at the meeting?
Absolutely, Mr. Batchelor. Orange County, since our charter was created in 1986, when we had a population of 500,000 people. Mm-hmm. Today we have a population of 1.5, and we're growing. We're one of the fastest growing regions in the country. Mm-hmm. So a commissioner today represents a much broader constituency based on the growth. So. That's one of the metrics. We're also looking at comparing other metropolitan counties in Florida, Broward, Palm Beach, Hillsborough, Miami-Dade, to see how many commissioners they have per population. Mm-hmm. I've also requested the number of residents in the unincorporated areas, and we have found that District 1, I think you live in District 1, I think there's a large number of residents. I think they have double, right? Mm-hmm. The District 1 commissioner represents a nearly double the amount of unincorporated residents as any of the other commission. It's mm-hmm. District 1 and District 4. That's where the growth is, and that's where the growth will continue to be. Also, District 2 has a lot of land in the unincorporated areas, and there's a lot of growth in that area. So those are the things that we're going to look into, but it's really data-driven, in my opinion, on whether now is, it's a time. This has been an issue that's been vetted a number of times by prior charter. It seems like every 4 years there's a discussion on expansion. So we're looking at data, and we'll make a determination if we make a recommendation to the full committee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Dottie?
Yes, Angel, I just need to ask a question. When you say 1.5 million people, are those voters or are those residents?
Those are residents.
Well, how are we going to do that if
Part-
they're not voters? Okay, the next question is, where would you put the other two districts in Orange County? How do you determine where they are?
I don't think that's something for the charter. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the redistricting committee will do that. And I think these are issues that we're discussing at our subcommittee meeting. You simply redraw the districts based on growth. Just to give you another example, Orange County Public Schools has 7 districts, and they've had 7 districts for at least 20 years, if not longer, Bill.
I understand that. I'm talking about Orange County voters, not the school.
Well, I think a county commissioner has to represent all residents, not just voters.
I understand that too, but you're talking about a lot of children who are in school and they're not voters. I just was thinking, if it's we've increased to 1.5 million people, the 1.5 million people, are we talking about students? Who are we talking about?
We're talking about residents of Orange County. The population is the number of residents. There's students, there's elderly, there's working people, there's voters, there are citizens, there are non-citizens. That's the population of the county.
Okay.
And a county commissioner, just like a county commissioner, a state representative, a state senator, a mayor has to represent all the residents
fine.
within the county.
I understand. It's just like some people, they run for an office. And when they're running, they should know who they're going to represent and how many people there are to be represented. And if they can't fulfill the duty, then they shouldn't run.
Thank you. I have a comment to make. Angel, the number you used is 1.5 million. That's in toto, including the cities, 13 cities in Orange County. The actual number of people that the county commission supervises in response to is about 800,000-900,000, not 1.5 million.
Pardon, Mr. Chair?
Mm-hmm.
I missed that. What's that number?
I said you used 1.5 million, and that is correct. That's the total population of Orange County, but it's not the population that we are in charge of, which is the Board of County Commissioners. We don't have any authorization in the cities, the 13 cities. And our population is, in the county, is about 900,000, as I recall.
It's actually,
And it's grown, sure, from 5 to 8 or something of that nature, but over the last several years. But, you know, gotta use the right number, you know.
well, we actually pulled data. I did request the data on the number of residents within the municipalities, also in unincorporated areas. The actual number is actually a little closer to 1 million. I think Mr. Vos may
Right,
have
a
the
little less than a
spreadsheet.
million.
Yeah, so,
Numbers about it, you know, it depends upon which statistics you use and how often they've gotten that, but it's
Right.
not 1.5 million.
yeah.
The Board of County Commissioners is, you know, less than 1 million, because you have the county, the city of Orlando is like 300,000, you got Apopka, you got 13 cities in the county. And so you gotta take them out because we don't have any authority in that area. So we represent, you know, less than 1 million people. And just to keep the record straight, you're correct that there is 1.5 million people in Orange County, however, generically. But in reality, we're the Board of County Commissioners, and as Commissioner Fernandez here can attest to, you don't have any jurisdiction, generally speaking, in the cities. Now, you do when it comes to health and welfare of the community. The state health department is in joint venture with the county to provide county health throughout the county, including the cities. That's a state statute. So, you know, we just got to, you know, keep it straight so that, you know, we don't mislead the people. We represent a little less than 1 million. And I'm not saying we haven't grown in the last several years. And there may be an opportunity for us to move forward with another county commissioner or two. But, you know, you don't want to get like Jacksonville. They got 26 commissioners, and it's like a legislature, like, you know, they argue back and forth, and it becomes a, you know, a very difficult time to get anything approved for the people, because they're always arguing for their district, which is, you know, what you're there for. That's why you have district commissioners. But the county commission is a little different in the sense that you represent the whole county. I mean, you watch your district, but, you know, when issues come up that affects the whole county, it's the county commission should take the position of what's best for the county, not their district only. So I just wanted to make it clear, just because you add another commissioner doesn't help you in terms of getting something approved, because that one additional county commissioner, he represents, these people are being represented right now. You're gonna just divide it by another piece of pie. And I'm not sure myself, I'd have to see the statistics on it, whether or not it makes any sense to spend another $500,000 to $1 million to add another county commissioner in another district and another assistants, and, you know, it goes on and on. But I'm open to looking at all the statistics and seeing whether or not it's worth it for the county commission to spend a bunch of money. And, you know, again, I'd like to make one other point. I think in '86, and maybe our attorney here can tell us, in 1986, you know, we had our first revision commission meeting, I believe, and I was on it. And I remember, it's kind of crazy, I don't remember many things in life at this age, but I remember I wanted to keep the attorney being voted on by the commission and not just the chair, not just the mayor, when they changed it, you know. And I don't know when it got changed, because it was a couple years later, maybe 10, 15 years later, I was on another county commission, another charter study commission. This is my third. But you can tell me whether or not it was specifically said that the attorney would be hired by the county commission and not just the mayor, unless they changed it in subsequent mission, you know, elections by the people.
And Vice Chairman, to that
Yeah.
most immediate question, I can't address that. That was one of the things that
Okay.
Member De La Portilla asked me to take a quick look at in the history. You're correct. In the original 1986 charter, there was a whole section dedicated to the county attorney, and it provided that the county attorney was chosen by the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
That language was amended out in a 1988 charter amendment that occurred just 2 years after you all proposed that original charter, and changed it to be to remove that provision and make it that the legal department was under the direction of then the chairman, now the mayor. So that change, and we've had discussion about, you know, the extent to which that was explicitly put on the ballot versus other things.
Right.
But in any event, that change occurred in '88.
Okay.
And so it
That's the authority that the chairman is going by, the mayor is going by now.
and that's what's written currently in the charter, yes. And just a little bit, because Member De La Portilla had referenced it, asking about numbers. This committee's asked us to pull a lot of numbers from the census, from the University of Florida Bureau of, the Bieber Bureau that University of Florida has. Current population estimates for unincorporated, for the unincorporated portion of Orange County are, as you both discussed, it's about 930,000 right now in 2022.
Right.
With a total estimated population right now in Orange County of 1.48, that including the municipalities. The best information I have as to population back in 1986, when the charter was first implemented, was that the population in the county as a whole, within municipalities and without, was about 580,000. So again, that's the data we've got.
With or without?
That includes the municipalities. That's the total number of all population in incorporated and unincorporated areas. And again, that's the best data I have available to me, looking back in '86.
What date?
Back in '86.
86, that's before we added another commissioner to the board, is that correct?
That was, I don't know whether that number from the census from the beginning of the year or the end of the year or what have you.
Do you know the year that we added an additional member to the board?
It was 1988.
Yeah, it was in the '88 amendment.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
Can I follow up with some?
sure. Board recognizes former legislature Diggy Batchelor.
Sooner or later, somebody's gonna recognize me. but-
A couple of observations and a question for Mr. Montalto. Mike? Sorry, is that on now? 1, 2, 3?
Yes, it's on now.
1, 2, 3, okay, thank you. Couple of observations in historical perspective. Mr. Shire and I are at the age we can give historical perspectives, right? When I was in the legislature, we had to run countywide. There were no single-member districts.
So did I.
Until we went to single-member districts, and then the county commission did not go to single-member districts until 1980, I believe. I believe it was 1980.
Yeah.
And the basis for that, in my opinion, the reason I supported single-member districts is because I believe the government closest to people governs the best. And so I think, and I'm not arguing in support of the expansion of the commission, except I do argue to the point that more commissioners can allow each commissioner to have more attention to a smaller group of people, even though it's a vast number of people to begin with. The second thing I kind of philosophical, Ben, is that I trust that the people can have an informed vote on any issue the Charter Review Commission puts before them, and let them make that decision, whether it's expanding the commission or whatever the issue that we might put on the ballot. I trust that the voters, an informed voter, will make the right decision and what's in their best interest. Particularly in this political environment we're in today, I think the closer we can get government to the people, and the people have unfettered access to those policymakers that impact their lives by making policy decisions, to me, that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. One thing that I would suggest, if you haven't done, two things. One, it might be interesting to get the insight of people who served as chair before there was a mayor. If I would suggest, you might want to interview and/or have present, or just interview Rich Crotty, Linda Chapin, Mel Martinez, because they went through that conversion from a commission chair versus a mayor construct. So I think their input and their experience would be very informative on all these issues. And lastly, and maybe this, Jennifer, maybe I can get some help from the staff. It would be interesting at some point in the future, maybe at the committee level, if you had a whiteboard. I'm looking for a better word, but I would like to see the county commission map with the current county commissioners geographically drawn. I'd like to see an overlay of the school board, you know, which is not a part-time job either. An overlay of the school board, and then you could do a super overlay of the 13 cities, including the city of Orlando. And that way you look at all of the political nomenclature, county, and I wouldn't do the legislature. I don't think you need that. I think I would do the county commission overlay, all the 13 cities and the school board, and that way you can see graphically what the level of representation is in the county. Different issues, granted, but you still see the level of representation at different levels. And I mean, I could argue just intuitively off my head and maybe without very many facts, which I'm prone to do, that the school board is a closer model to an expanded commission than an individual city, like whether it's Groveland or what I'm thinking of, Oakland. I meant to say Oakland. Anyway, that's a suggestion that I would like maybe staff could help you do that. I think it would be very informative to see it in a graphic form that way you can see you've got city representation, school board representation, county representation, again, at risk being redundant. I don't think we need to do an overlay of the legislative because it's a whole different animal. I guess I should have chosen a better word.
Hold on a second. I'd suggest, Angel, that be in your department, you can go ahead and coordinate that for Dickie. Beverly, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to address all of these issues for you gentlemen that don't serve on this committee. Mr. DePortilla has done a fabulous job at leading our group. There's a number of us that serve on this committee. There's a lot of issues to take up. We've spent multiple hours working on this particular issue. It's the first one we took on. I want to assure our very eloquent speaker here that we have brought in the county commissioners and talked to them about their responsiveness to their constituents, their needs, their problems, anything that they think needs to be addressed, and if they even think we need to expand, which it's a divided. Some of them do and some of them don't. Some of them think it's just fine. Their staffing situation, their office situation, some of them are perfectly fine. Some of them think we need to expand. But we have taken a deep dive. We've also done the overlay on the schools board district as well as the regular district. So anytime y'all want to come with us and start looking at some of these things, we've been working on it for like 8-9 hours now. And we're getting down to the issue of whether it's worth the money, whether there's a need, whether it's time now. Sooner or later, this issue is going to have to be addressed about the expansion or the building of a new building or the growth to capacitate the burgeoning Central Florida area that Orange County is. And also, one other thing I wanted to say is that just because a county commissioner has cities in their district, they still have to work together with those cities. They still have to go to those meetings and deal with those mayors and those city commissions and those constituents. And many of the constituents from the cities are the folks that they are appointing for us to be on these boards, making these decisions and working very hard. So even though they don't deal with the utilities and getting the roads fixed in those cities, although I personally just had an issue with a pothole that was in discrepancy between Orange County and Apopka on the line. So fortunately, I could block in the Apopka guy and get him to fill it and convince him, even though it was in Orange County, was there for 2 years. So anyway, these are the things that our commissioners have to deal with every day. But please, anybody can come to those meetings. His next one is on the 30th, next Wednesday. They're in downtown. They're in the comptroller's office. Very interesting. We have a lot of speakers. Commissioner Bonilla spoke to us at the last meeting and told us her thoughts on all of this. And we are very aware, because we're people just like you that have to go to the grocery store and have to pay our taxes, which I just got my trim notice. So we appreciate you. You were very eloquent in expressing the frustration that all of our constituents are having right now with their situation.
Well, thank you, Bev. I've got one comment that I'd like to make, and I hadn't had a chance to talk to our illustrious chairperson for that committee, but I'd like to bring up another issue relative to him to take on consideration on his discussions with his committee, and that is going back to the mayor today being changed back to a chairman of the county commission. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people think we got 2 mayors, and we got 14 mayors now, and they're, you know, I'm old school, and people are used to the chairman being the person that runs the county commission. And I think there's a lot of confusion as to the people, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've heard a lot of, you know, problems with people calling the mayor and they don't know which mayor to call. And so the chairman kind of stands out in a separate category in itself, and it's always been that way for, you know, 30, 40 years before they changed it to a mayor. And I was against it then. I'm still against it because it just confuses the voters in the county. And the chairman, you know, they're used to calling the chairman's office, and, you know, now they got mayors upon mayors to call, and they really don't know which mayor to call. And a lot of them call the city, they call the county, you know. So I'd like you to take into consideration, just consider going back to a chairman, which distinguishes us, I think, in a positive fashion than all the other mayors, because we are the biggest in the county. We have most of the people in the county. We have the population of 800,000-900,000 people versus a city of Orlando, which is 300 and some thousand people. So to distinguish us, as it has been in the past in the state constitution, when they established Orange County and all the 67 counties we in the state, it was a county commission chairman and the 5 commissioners, and one of the 5 commissioners was the chairman. And that's the way it started, and served us pretty good for a while. We ran county, like Dick, we ran county-wide, and now they've got it into individual, which is fine with me. It's closest to people. I believe in that also. But I think the name that the person, if you're going to segregate and add people to it, I think you ought to go back to being a chairman and put that on the ballot, because I think people would vote for that. Myself, distinguishes us from the other 13 cities. And that way the people will know, you know, it's going back to the way it was. I think it was something to do with the Sentinel wanted Orange County and the city of Orlando to merge into one activity, so they kind of started with the chairman, changing it to mayor, so now it kind of led the public to believe that you could merge those two and save a bunch of money, you know. And every time they've done that, it never happens. Bureaucracy doubles. Anyhow, any other members would like to talk to?
Mr. Chairman, I promise this will be my last point for the chairman here, if I might, please. First of all, the committee has done an extraordinary job, spent a lot of time looking at these issues. When we go back and look at the issue of expanding the county commission, the factor I want to consider is what it costs to get elected as a county commissioner nowadays versus what it cost just a few years ago. I have this theory, which it's pretty real, I think, is that every time you have an exponential influence of money in a campaign, there's a diminution of the influence the individual voter has. Who owns the county commissioner? I'm not suggesting any of our county commissioners own. I'm suggesting that money plays such it's mother's milk of politics, right? It plays such an important part. One of the things I would look at is just one member of this commission is that if you expand it by 2, does it reduce the cost of that county commissioner getting elected? And does that reduced costs influence that elected official to be more responsive to the constituents who haven't written checks? And that sounds very jaded, maybe, but I watched it for 50 years. I've seen it. When I ran for the legislature the last time in '82, I ran countywide and I spent $45,000. A legislative seat now, you have to be prepared to spend $1 million. $1 million. $1 million. $1 million. So what does it cost to run for county commission, and then who funds it? And again, I get back to my theory, and and I've seen it happen. The more influence money has in it, the less influence the individual voter has in the process. That's just real. It sounds jaded, but it happens to be the jaded truth. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, thank you for all the good work you and your committee have done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Okay, now we're gonna, the other item on the agenda is the, let's see where it go. I lost it here. Okay. The Charter Cleanup Committee meeting, which was held August 9th, and our chair, Mr. Grimer, would please give us a report on that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice Chair. So yes, the Workforce Housing and Charter Cleanup Committee met on August 9th. We had a presentation from Mitchell Glasser, who's the head of the Affordable Housing Department in Orange County. Just for the benefit of the public who may not know what we're considering. Right now, we're considering a proposal to incorporate the Affordable Housing Trust Fund into the county charter. Currently, it is only codified in municipal code, which gives the Board of County Commissioners the authority to, by vote, to remove the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And also the municipal code also only provides a funding source for the first 10 years of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So we're considering to incorporate that into the the trust fund into the county charter. For, one, to put the hands of the power, if people were to vote to put it in the charter, only the people of Orange County could vote to remove it in another charter amendment. So it puts the power in the hands of the people. And also, we'd also look to codify its funding source in the county charter. So therefore, we don't have to worry about what's going to happen in another 7 years, if they're going to fund it or not. So again, really shores up the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So in our presentation, we heard great information about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the work that the county is how they're implementing the Housing for All Action Plan. And what really stood out to me in the presentation was just the scope and depth of the issue of affordable housing in Orange County, and really drove home for me the necessity to make sure this fund continues to exist in perpetuity unless the people remove it, because I specifically asked Mr. Glasser about whether this problem is going to be solved in another 8 years when the funding source runs out in the ordinance, and he smiled and he said no. So we have a huge problem of affordable housing in Orange County. Our public commenter mentioned it here tonight. It was something that will continue to exist for many, many years, and something we're to continue to work at and dedicate the proper resources to. So, so great presentation. We'll continue to move forward on that, considering that issue. And we also discussed the newest issue that was within the scope of our committee. Last full CRC meeting, we now have the issue of the possible implementation of rural boundaries in Orange County, which would stand to guard against the proliferation of suburban sprawl. So we did some discussion on that, how we're going to move forward on that issue, and we're right now on that. So we're planning on reaching out, if we haven't already, to Commissioner Lee Constantine in Seminole County, who came to the full CRC a couple meetings ago and gave us a presentation discussion of Seminole County's rural boundaries. So we were going to reach out to him and also any other member of Seminole County government to have them come and talk to us, give us a presentation, more so on the nitty-gritty of how the rural boundary works in Seminole County. When he talked to us before, it was more of like an overview. This is why we did it. This is why we need it. These are the good things. But we want to get into the nuts and bolts of how it works in Seminole if we're going to consider doing something similar in Orange County. And then also we want to reach out to our own planning department and hear from them about how it would affect them, how it would affect Vision 2050, which is the comprehensive plan update that the Board of County Commissioners has voted to transmit and may adopt later this year. So that would be a big thing that could affect how Vision 2050 is implemented, and also their thoughts on if we were to do this, where it should be, how it should work. It would affect the planning department greatly, obviously, so we want to hear their thoughts on it. So we're waiting to hear on those, and we'll schedule our next meeting around the availability of those presenters. We also considered always a fun question about whether we should change our name again for the committee, because we now have the rural boundaries as in our scope, and the doesn't really covered by workforce housing and charter cleanup. And we didn't really come to a potential replacement, but we do want to make sure, the point of changing would make sure the public is aware what we're considering. So if they're considering what to come to our committee, they know the issues we're considering. Mr. Vo said that legally speaking, there's nothing that we have to change it like right away, but we should consider doing this. I said would we maybe bring it to the full CRC to see if anyone had some ideas. Something I came up with maybe in the interim would be changing it to the Sustainable Development, Sustainable Growth, and Charter Cleanup Committee. And I think the sustainable growth aspect maybe could cover those two issues, because when you're talking about sustainable growth, one, rural boundaries obviously falls within that, because you're talking about the proliferation, ending suburban sprawl, and all the environmental and financial impacts that suburban sprawl has, but also sustainability addressing housing affordability. If more unaffordable something is, the less sustainable that market is. So I think possibly sustainable growth can kind of cover those two topics, and then also keeping our charter cleanup committee in the title as well. So,
Thank you, Chairman Grimmer. Grimmer. And
you got it right the first time.
yeah, Grimmer. Okay. And I just want the people out there to know that our subcommittees are working. We like your comments to that area, to those subcommittees that we have, in your opinion. It's important for you, for this board, and for the community to know what you're thinking. And if you don't want to come up here and give a speech to us about your concerns, you can go ahead and just type up a note, or send a note, an email to the board. It's on a website, our address, and that'll be included in the minutes of the meeting, so that when the county commission and the public looks at the meetings, they know that there's people that are interested in commenting on something, but they didn't feel like they wanted to jump up here and speak, to us directly. But that will be included in the minutes, and it will make a record of your participation in this meeting. And we would appreciate your comments, even though you didn't sign up for it, but you have, after hearing discussion, you have some ideas. We'd love to hear your ideas. So just an email to the secretary of our it's on the website, the secretary of the commission, and we'll include it in the minutes of our meeting, and that'll be up. You can get that into us by a week from now, and so that we've got time to put it into the minutes and record it as necessary for your comments. I see we have Commissioner Fernandez has said something. Would you like to say something for a minute or two? We're making
Mr.
good
Chair, I
progress.
need to make a motion on the Mr. Grimmer's committee, if I can do that.
I don't think we need them.
Is that on the name?
I would like to move that we revise the
Okay.
Workforce Housing and Charter Cleanup Committee name to be the Sustainable Growth and Charter Cleanup Committee.
Okay, well, floor is open for discussion on it. We have a second? No second?
I'll second it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we have a second.
I didn't know if I could, so.
Are you ready to entertain this new name?
Well, I know we have some comments on the floor, and maybe if anyone wants to address the name change in their comments, we can go ahead and listen to, I know Eugene's on there, on the board there, so if anyone has any comments on the name, then maybe we can hear those before we vote, Vice Chair? That work for you?
My comment is it's a no-brainer. Let's make it make sense, because you're taking on another topic. We
Okay.
have 3 or 4 topics now, so that's why I moved that we just move along with it.
I like what you said, Beverly. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I hear none. It's unanimous. Thank you. Now, we work pretty quick here. Okay, we're at the stage where we have comments by individual commissioners. They're allocated a couple minutes relative to what they want to say, relative where we are and what we're doing. So I guess
Mr. Vice Chair, did we want to, we
Yeah.
asked the commissioner to come up? Did you ask the commissioner to come up? Does she want to come up and say
Oh,
a few
yeah,
words?
that's right.
You offered,
Sorry.
you extended the invitation. I didn't want to take
Yeah,
it away from her.
no, I think so. She'd like to comment on anything we're doing, because we appreciate former commissioners and their comments and their intelligence and historical activity relative to serving this community. You're on deck. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and I just want to give you some input here. As a county commissioner, there is one thing that I would like you to consider. One, the county commission, it's a part-time job. It's not a full-time job. So this is something that I would like you to consider. When I was a commissioner, I did a full-time job because I was retired from IBM and I wanted to serve the community. That job was not a corporate America job. It was serving the community that I did represent. And as the chairman was saying very clearly, when we're seated in the county commission, we're doing public policy. We're doing the policy for the whole county. So each commissioner, at the time of doing the public policy, you can be thinking how it's going to affect your individual district, but as a whole, the public policy, it's going to affect the whole county. The other thing that I'm very, very concerned is that the commissioners, they raised their salary 24%. You see that in corporate America. You don't see that in government. I am stunned when they voted for that kind of increase in salary when we have issues on affordable housing. So my question becomes, how come I'm going to make $113,000 on a part-time job? I have 2 children that are engineers, and in order to make that kind of money, they even work Saturdays and Sundays. So that's stunned me, that we're thinking in expanding commission when the commissioner has 3 aides. When I was a commissioner, I had 2 aides. And I was able, because my job as a commissioner, it's public policy. The calls, the constituents are being held by the aides. So in my specific district, District 3, I have calls from constituents that knows me to let me know that their commissioner in District 3 are not answering their calls. So I want you to think about that. Thank you.
It's a good point. Well, I think you hit a nerve and it's true that the county commissioner is a part-time job. Actually, when I was there, I don't know if they've done anything since then, but it wasn't identified as full-time or part-time. It was just a commissioner's salary. And, you know, when I was, this District 5, which we're in now, was my former district, and I had one aide that did it all. You know, and we had, you know, if you go back and do the statistics, we had, you know, a lot of people in this district, you know. So now that they got 6 commissioners, it cut it back a bit, but on the other hand, it's grown some. So I don't know. I'd have to look at the statistics to see whether or not they're serving more people. And we need another commissioner at $100 and some thousand. And also, you know, the 3 aides and the space at the county commission's building is out, and so they'll probably have to build a new building for another commissioner or 2, you know, so they all want their own office and their own aides in their own office. So it's not just the 1 or 2 commissioners, it's what it generates. And former county commissioner Hernandez here knows what I'm talking about. You know, it's just bureaucracy growing and growing, and you know, we got a strong mayoral form of government right now, which, you know, that's supposed to handle all this information and get it done. You know, that's the way it's structured now, and unfortunately, it doesn't. You know, there's a lot of issues, and I guess our structure with our commission, the structure of the county commission, and whose responsibility is it to do the people's work? Is it the commissioners or the mayor? You know, there's a lot of issues that are confusing everybody right now on who to go to, where to talk, who's responsible for filling that pothole. And so hopefully we can get some clarity with our committees that are looking into this right now, and come up with some kind of solution that's defined, you know, for the public, so they know where to call when they need some help. See, Chuck?
Dottie, me.
Oh, Dottie?
Before him.
Dottie's next, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to say why the initiative committee does not have a report. I was on vacation, and while I was away, there was someone who was asked to represent our board, our committee, but they were unable to do it, and we did not have a quorum. Therefore, we could not have a meeting. So, but next month, we will have the initiative report. I just want to let everyone know we're not running away. We just didn't have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. Chuck O'Neill?
One of the reasons why we go out to each of the districts is to hear from members who live in the district. And even though we only heard one public comment, I would like to perhaps see a show of hands for the people who are in favor of, as was proposed at the last meeting, creating a rural boundary on the east side, because this is really a District 5 issue. So could we see a show of hands of people who are in favor of a rural boundary on the east and west side? Could we see a show of hands of people who are opposed to that? All right.
Are you asking people that live in District 5 or just in general, everybody?
That's a good question. The people who raised their hands in favor, would you put your hands back up if you live in District 5 and you're in favor of a rural boundary? I think that's pretty much the same. Thank you, Nelson.
50-50, I think. Anyhow, that issue is to be discussed in committee, and will be brought to the table for people to opine on, you know. So it's under discussion now, but we like to keep these things rather than have a popularity contest on, you know, you really need the information and how it affects you, and then you can make your decision in terms of, you know, whether you want to have it or not, you know. But that'll be part of the committee meeting process that we have. Okay, any other commissioners would like to? Alicia?
Yep.
Prophet?
Yeah, just at our last meeting, one of the topics that came up was the creation of a public bank, and I just wanted to remind everyone that our first meeting is on the 30th for that, so we will be discussing that very soon.
Okay.
Eugene, a quick thing about that. Reaching out to the community, I'm a co-chair of the Commissioner Benelia in our District 5 reach out community. And what I always tell the people, and what people hear on TV, we are encouraging people to come and speak to us. And if you want to get on an agenda, you can actually send to the comptroller and actually get your name on there and get onto the agenda and speak for a few minutes. And that's how we got the public bank, and we also got the rural bureau boundary put on. Was actually citizens submitted that ideal and got onto our agenda and actually spoke to it. So that's another, we're trying our best as a commission to reach out to the public to get your ideals. And you can write letters and submit notes to us, or you can speak to us by addressing to the comptroller's office. So I encourage that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I also add to that, obviously encourage as much input as possible. If when you are referred to the comptroller's office, they can provide you with our contact information so you can reach out to us individually too. You're not meeting with the comptroller's office. They're just going to be the air traffic controller. So feel free, if you want to meet with any of us here or share information, they can provide you with our email and contact information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, you're not restricted, from going to other meetings that we have in different districts. We're, into our third district meeting. Yeah, third. This is the third one we have. We have 3 more to go. So y'all are invited to go to those also in each of the districts. We appreciate the participation of everybody in the county because it affects everybody. Let's see, my list is pretty well exhausted.
I'm on here, Mr. Vice Chair.
Eric's back up?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Something that I've been thinking about a lot, and it really brought home, again, by our wonderful public comment tonight, and this is a question for maybe Mr. Vos and also for consideration, discussion of the board at large. Is there any precedent in a county charter amendment for doing anything regarding TDT, which is the tourist development tax? It was brought up earlier tonight. It's being considered by the Board of County Commissioners tomorrow. They're going to consider it. And the Atlanta Sentinel published an article this evening based on a memo that the mayor sent on Friday where he's proposing to put $500 million into the Orange County Convention Center and another $400 million into Camping World Stadium, despite the recommendations from the Citizen Advisory Task Force that the Board of County Commissioners consider alternative uses for TDT dollars, and also considering altering their criteria, which they score their projects, which tends to favor things like the Convention Center and Camping World Stadium, instead of projects that would more benefit the citizens and the workers directly. So for Mr. Vos, is there any precedent for a charter committee or amendment considering issues like that?
Sure. So there is no charter provision currently in any of the 20 county charters in Florida. However, I can tell you from personal experience, back in the 2015-2016 Charter Review Commission cycle, there was extensive investigation into a charter amendment that put some rails, if you will, on the spending of TDT funds. Now, in Orange County, yes, I'm so sorry. In the 2015-2016 Orange County Charter Review Commission cycle, there was, and I believe it was a whole committee, if I'm remembering correctly. At the very least, it should have been its own committee. It went in very much into the weeds, looking at that issue. Now, I will tell you from 8 years back recollection, that was there's a lot of deep dives that went on there. I will tell you a couple things that are probably going to be out of bounds, just right out of the pocket. If there is, as you all may know, state statute puts a lot of restrictions on what tourist development taxes can be spent on. For good or ill, it's a policy decision. They made that up in Tallahassee. It would be outside the bounds of the charter to purport to add to that list, to say you can spend TDT funds on something in addition to what the state statute says you can. That would be out of bounds. However, there was substantial investigation back in 15-16 at a charter amendment relating to the expenditure of TDT. I will tell you, it was a little bit more directed to the evaluation process for its spending, not directed to trying to expand its list of uses or anything like that.
Thank you.
I'd like to add to a question to that.
Hey, Gene.
If you can't expand it, can you restrict it? Let's say that citizens, we put in a charter amendment saying, you can't go expand the football stadium, you cannot do this. I mean, can we do the negate it point of it?
That's a much more complicated question, and here's why. What we're talking about, and again, I can't give you a categorical answer without revisiting my research from 8 years ago, because quite frankly, I don't remember every conclusion I came to there. My general recollection is there's substantial sensitivity when it comes to the final decision of the Board of County Commissioners, because that is a direct grant of statutory authority to the Board of County Commissioners. And my vague recollection, which I may take back after looking at my research, was that there was some substantial concern under relevant case law with trying to overly control that final decision. And it really directed more to process, an evaluation process, than to prohibiting certain final results.
Betty? Betsy? Dottie?
The other day, I was watching news, and I heard the mayor said that they were going to defer some of the monies going to Camping World Stadium. It's not a done deal yet.
Right.
And did you hear him say it was
It's just a
deferring?
proposal. He just proposed it.
Well,
But it's not a done deal.
No, it's not a done deal, so I don't know why we're talking about it. It's not a done deal yet. And also, he was saying deferring several of the proposals for the distribution of the funds. Not only Champion World, there were several mentioned.
Yeah, convention center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's not a done deal, and like Attorney Voss said, we cannot determine or negate what the statute from the state of Florida has put upon the county with the tax dollars. So I don't think that's something that we need to try and work out, because we don't know all of the information. And by him saying this is not a done deal, I'm thinking of deferring several of the dollars that they had proposed. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, one more. and
A
that's it.
continuation of that thought. Let's say our commission tomorrow votes on a list of things. What's to stop us from writing a charter and say that it needs to go to the voters' approval? We're not taking the authority away, but we're giving the ultimate authority to the citizens to say, this is our money. Do we really want to put it on a football field or expansion of a civic center?
And that would be something I would need to research to give you an answer I feel comfortable with.
Because it is within our, okay, might be a question.
Yes? Sure.
Yeah, that horse has left the barn. We'll have left the barn by tomorrow. The county commission is likely to vote on the projects that are going to be funded with the TDT. Some more historical perspective, and I actually passed the first resort tax in 1976, and it was 1 penny. 1 penny, believe it or not, is what it was at the time. And the billions it's raised to date is interesting. And I supported I wasn't there, but I supported the legislature extending the uses and applications for the tourist development tax to some very confined areas. But as far as the Charter Review Commission, I think we're without portfolio. I mean, that decision is going to be made tomorrow by the county commission, and based on everything I've heard. And so that won't be available for discussion, I don't believe, after tomorrow's county commission vote.
Thank you. Not hearing it. You got another one? Let's see. Which one?
Just add a couple of things. Though there may be a vote tomorrow, obviously some TDT is something that is ongoing, and there'll be additional projects in the future. And what I see, is that the Board of County Commissioners, at least currently, up until now, has not been responsive to the needs and the wants of the public for how this money should be used. And that is what we're here to do, is to be responsive to the to the needs of the public. And what I'm hearing from Mr. Vos is maybe there could be an issue if we try to restrict tie their hands on the use of the dollars, but maybe there's something we can look at in terms of the evaluation criteria that will that will make it more responsive to the needs of the public and the wants of the public. So I would let this board know to expect a proposal from me for the next full CRC meeting, a proposal regarding the TDT, and ask it to be sent to a committee. So just to
Mr. Chair?
preview coming attractions.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, please call on me. I've been here for a while.
I'm
I have some,
sorry.
if I
Excuse
might.
me. Beverly, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. The tourist development tax is called the tourist development tax because the money is recruited and brought in by the hotels, and it is to be spent on endeavors that bring tourists into the area. It was created by a state statute. The state statute, as Mr. Batchelor said, is very definitive on how it should be used, what it should be used for. Most of it is used for the debt service and the expansion of the public facilities, but there is a portion of it that is used for grants. I serve on a number of those grant committees. They are meticulous, fastidious, and difficult, and they have to prove how many tourists they're bringing back with that money. For all of you that want to redo the tourist tax, I wish that you would sit through some of the activities, you would read the statute, you would learn how it's been going for the last number of years, and you would see all of the fabulous development that has happened in Orange County because of it and how it's been used. I realize we want to help the constituents in a number of ways, but the tourist tax is, just because there's a bunch of money there, is not something we need to put in the charter and try to start itching away at getting some of that money out of there. Let's spend our time on the things that we've been asked by the community to do. You can bring it up. I'm going to vote no on it.
Okay, I think we're getting a report from our attorney whether or not this is outside the bounds of our call by the county commission. Seeing no other discussion?
Motion to adjourn?
No.
Second.
No.
We have a second to motion. Any objection to the motion?
Say aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, you want to take a call, vote on that issue? Sounds like we got a mixed vote here.
On the motion to adjourn,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was,
Yeah, no, there's no objections? No, we have a couple down at this end that, want to stay here for a while.
I object to that. That was a rush thing that didn't allow numerous speakers to speak. There was a couple names on that list, and they did not get to speak. This is a time that we are.
You got to speak, didn't you?
I'm not done.
More than once.
We are here dedicating our time
who we talking
to the
about?
citizens,
Who we
and we're
talking
doing this on our own time, not being paid for this. And it really gets irritating that I've dedicated this and then get sent home because someone wants to get home for TV or something. I'm here to work and get these things done. I have a year and a half to do this, and that's it. So, yes, TDT is a problem. We are mad about it. We are citizens. It's our money. It's not the tourist industry's money. My tax dollars do not go to the things I necessarily want, but I have elected people to do that job. I expect the TDT to help this community. We are meeting right now on housing, the banking issue. These are issues directly tied because we have a low-income job sector of tourism, and we have to do something about this. We do have to discuss, and I'm sorry, the commission is wrong if they go putting a hood on top of the dang football field and expanding the dang civic center. Shame on them that they do that, because we have mass transportation issues, and we have a lot of issues in this county.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I think it's out of our germane at this time until our attorney tells us we can get into that. I think your comments are more directed to the county commission rather than this board. We have a motion on the floor. Again, we'll take another vote and make sure that everybody's response to the motion to adjourn.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice Chair, just one quick comment.
Okay, we
can
have
go?
one comment.
All right, this
Now,
is a very
call
quick
the question.
comment. And I appreciate the state statute and what it says, but one of the things that's been overlooked with the TDT is the improvement of our water bodies that draw tourism, such as Wekiva Springs. Wekiva Springs is in Orange County. Also, a lot of people are drawn to our lakes, et cetera. Those are included in the state statute, and those have been overlooked time and time again. So just one parting comment. The horse is not left the barn. Every year, there's money coming in. And if this commission does decide to take up the issue of putting guardrails on how that money is spent, my vote would be in favor of that motion.
Okay, I appreciate your comments, and again, we'll wait to hear from our county attorney to give us some guidance in terms of what we should, be discussing relative to the Charter Study Commission, whether it's a charter or not. My utility bills are too high. I know we can bring that up also. There's a lot of things that are, happening in this community that we could bring up, but that's not, we'd be here for next 10 years trying to get something done. And we've got a charge by the county commission to do a charter study review. And I'd like to hear from the county, from our attorney, whether or not that's in our charge. I don't want to get out of our lane. There's a lot of issues everybody has: transportation, sewer and water expansion, my utility bill, you name it. That's not our job, I don't think. And unless the county attorney said, it has nothing to do with the charter. It's more of a policy decision rather than an absolute spending of the taxpayers' money. That's the county commission's responsibility, not ours. I don't want to expand what we're supposed to be doing. And if county attorney says, not county attorney, the city, our sitting attorney says that we have the prerogative to delve into that for the public, then that's fine. But right now, I don't see it. I see us concentrating on changing the charter. Whether we need more commissioners or not, spend more money on government issues or not. There's a lot of issues out there: paving and drainage issues. We had floods here in the community. That's all what the county commission does. And so that's, I don't want to get into that preview unless we're charged for that. And then we got a couple of commissioners here. The chairman is a former county commissioner. We've got commissioners that come to the meetings, former public, people that are looking to be a county commissioner come to these meetings. So I'd like to personally, suggest that we keep our comments to the Charter Review Commission that we are charged with. And if it's outside that rail, I think it would be up to our attorney. Keep on calling, I want to call him the county attorney when I used to be on the board. And our attorney to give us a recommendation whether or not we're getting out of our lane. Call the question. Call the question again.
So
all those in favor of adjourning, you're more than welcome to stay and talk as individuals, commissioners, or public. We're not, shutting anybody down. They can talk. And obviously there's some, firm feelings.
Vice Chair, I need to take the roll call.
Yeah.
This is a motion to adjourn by Member Arias and seconded by Member Nguyen. Member Batchelor?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Yes or no?
Bring some out. Yes, the answer is yes.
Member Jackson?
Is that Dick?
Yes.
Member De La Portilla?
It's funny.
Member Weinsberg? Yes. Member Arias?
Yes.
Member
Yes.
Nguyen?
Yes.
Chair, Vice Chair Shira?
Yes.
Member Grimer?
Yes.
Member Baga?
Yes.
Member O'Neill? Yes. Member Staccardo? Member Adamson Prophet? Member Riley? She's absent, I'm sorry. Motion passes.
I declare sine die, right, Dick?